Well, Tsipras campaigned in January with a very ambiguous message. He said, I can keep you in the Eurozone without austerity. So people voted for something that many of us think was impossible, both Eurozone and ending austerity. So Tsipras is now being punished for this, and his popularity has plummeted because it was obvious that he couldn't do it. If you are in the Eurozone, remember, I mean, Greek people want the Euro. They don't want to leave the EU. 80% want to stay in the Eurozone. But staying in the Eurozone requires fiscal discipline. That's a requirement because the Eurozone is not a state. It has lots of different states, and they all have to be doing the same thing. So they agreed to have fiscal discipline, inflation up to 2%, and that's the deal that everybody has to keep. Greece failed to do that from 2004 to 2009, and it has to have a program of adjustment. So I think Tsipras actually didn't tell the truth in January, and then he bungled the negotiations. He failed, I agree to that extent with the other speaker, but he divided his party. His party is now split.
The problem with this election is that if Syriza loses a significant number of votes, which is very possible, coalition negotiations to build this strong government that you're looking forward to will very likely become even more complicated and ultimately risk the government stability that's so desperately needed.
Well, yes, I agree. And given that the two main parties... sorry.
First Pavlos and then Daniel, your response. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Certainly.
I think there is not that much dividing the two main parties at this point. I think the best outcome, given that the risk of Grexit is not over, and that the vast majority of the Greek population want to stay in the Eurozone and, of course, stay in the EU, the best, I think, option is a wide coalition of the 3 or 4 largest parties to carry out the necessary reforms. And remember, the reforms are not just fiscal, they're structural. The Greek economy needs to start producing things again and become competitive. And that's the biggest problem now we're facing. Unemployment is rising again, and that's an unbearable situation. So there's a crisis management need now, and I think a wide coalition would be the best result.
Daniel Jenkins?
I agree with what my other commentator just said just then. Tsipras did actually mislead the Greek people. The truth is he promised that he would fight austerity and at the same time stay within the Eurozone, and frankly that is simply impossible. At the moment it may be the case Eurozone, but I realise that you can't stay within the Eurozone and fight austerity. There are hard choices that have to be made. And when the Greek population realised that this means continued economic problems, increased unemployment, worsening situation, they have to face up to the facts that what they really need to do is simply leave the European Union because it's not an organisation that functions in their interest, leave the Eurozone, go back to the drachma, radically devalue their currency, and then they're actually in a position where they can begin to restore their economy. At the moment, they're doomed, and we're just seeing this awful, slow death of Greece continuing month after month, year after year, and it isn't going to change until some Greeks actually stand up and make the hard decisions and say, we can't do this. We can't stay in this European Union under these conditions. I'm quite unhappy that my sister party to the UK Independence Party, Independent Greeks, who are in coalition with Syriza, aren't doing this. They should have stood up and voted against the renegotiations that took place a few months ago, but unfortunately that didn't happen. This situation isn't going to improve unless they actually do something to change it. It's not going to change by itself. If you continue with the same policies, you'll have the same result.
Okay, Pavlos, a final word.
Well, the policies work in Ireland. It's the fastest growing economy in Europe. Portugal is growing very fast as well. It takes time, but the policies ultimately have proven to work if they are applied properly. So that's the task facing the next EU government, to apply the reforms with courage, with a desire to fight vested interests and to create a competitive economy. I think it can be done. It's been done elsewhere.
Okay, Pavlos Eleftheriadis, Daniel Jenkins, thank you both so much for joining us on the Newsmakers.
Thank you very much.